Hi everyone, welcome to Altenew's September release. I'm super excited to be participating in Altenew's video hop and featuring some really unique and gorgeous products, shining crystals. This fabulous layering stencil set also has a coordinating embossing folder. So awesome. The stencil set consists of 3 different stencils, but each stencil is broken down into different layering components. The stencils are numbered, indicating the order in which to use them, and each of the components on the stencil are also labeled in the order that they are to be stenciled. Okay then, starting off with stencil 1, I'm working on a slightly oversized piece of Bristol smooth cardstock, about 4.5 inches by 6 inches. And all of my stenciling for the main part of the crystals will be done with Altenew's cotton candy. Using a blending tool, color has been added to A1 of this first stencil. After giving it a good wipe and dry, then I'm going to line up section A2. For each of the 3 sections on this stencil with its openings to add color, all or part of the crystal formation has been etched on, making it very easy to align. Because I'm working with the same color, I rely on pressure to get varying tones of the pink. And again, I give the stencil a wipe and make sure that it's dry, and then go ahead and line up section A3. Each of the 3 stencils will complete a grouping of the crystals. So now on to stencil 2. As mentioned before, each stenciled layer will have all or a portion of the crystal formation etched on. So this makes it extremely easy to align everything together. And as I'm working, if I notice that an opening from another section is close to the area that I'm working on, I use a little bit of Post-it note tape to cover it up just as a precaution. As I stencil on color, I do pay attention to the depth of the tone of previously stenciled areas so that I can maintain a contrast. Color was just added to the area called B1 on stencil 2, and now I'm lining up B2. When I inked up B1, I applied a little bit more pressure, so for B2, I'm going to lighten it up. And I forgot to stencil B3 and went back and did that later. For the 3rd and final stencil, we'll be working on some of the smaller crystals. Working on C1, first I line up the etched design on the stencil to the stenciled formation on my cardstock. Color is added in with some fairly good pressure. C2 is lined up using the etched design on the stencil to help me get everything in place, and the 2nd section I lighten up my pressure slightly. For section C3, I'm going to be putting the little faces that are on top of the crystal, and I'm adding in some fairly good pressure to do this. The 3rd stencil has an additional area to stencil that will create the base for the crystal formation. At the top of this area, I'm adding in some cotton candy, and as I work towards the bottom of the opening of this stencil, I'm going to be adding in a 2nd color, a soft gray called Morning Frost. And there we go, the completed crystal formation. I love these crystals. They look fabulous, but you can take them to the next level because there is a coordinating embossing folder. The stenciled crystals are easily lined up to the design on the embossing folder, and just look at that added dimension. And of course, these are crystals, so they do need to have lots of sparkle. I want to add some chunky glitter highlights. So I'm using my Post-it note tape so that I can add in my adhesive right along certain areas. Before I add the glitter, I do use my finger and flatten out that glue. If I didn't, because I'm adding crystal clear glitter, you actually would see the ridges of glue. I like to work over top of a coffee filter. Otherwise, I would have glitter everywhere. I focus the shine more along where the two faces of the crystals meet and the face at the top of each crystal. And then I finished up my glitter extravaganza with a fairly wide band of adhesive right along the base where it meets the crystals. The main sentiment shine has been die cut using Altenew's fine alphabet die set, adding a little bit of the cotton candy ink to the top of each of the letters and then fading it out to white. Liquid adhesive will be placed on the white area of each of the letters and then they will be dipped into the chunky glitter. This looks so pretty and will look awesome with the crystal formation. The dies were also used to cut white sheet foam. When stacking the cardstock letters onto the foam ones, tweezers can help get everything aligned. For the secondary sentiment, I used Essential Sentiments hot foil plate. The coordinating die is easily lined up to the sentiments, and I use a little bit of low-tack tape to hold it in place as it goes through the die cutter. I'm pretty enthusiastic about this set. I love having sentiments on hand. Like the letters, I want the sentiment strip to be popped up on foam, so I use the die to cut some foam to stack it on. Now it's time to pull everything together, and I'm going to start off by trimming down my panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I'm a big fan of dimension on cards. I think it just adds that little extra something. So I'm going to take my panel and mount it on sheet foam that is exactly the same size, 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. The foam back panel is adhered to an A2 size top folding card base. I know it may look like I'm going a little crazy with that glue, but I'm not. It's thin streams of glue, but I do want to get it in most of the areas so that there is good contact between the foam and the cardstock. Before I put my main sentiment on, I'm first going to adhere the foam back sentiment strip. With the sentiment strip in place, that can be used to help line up the letters and center them. I first start with the 2 letters on the left-hand side, and then I move over to the right-hand side and get those letters in place and work towards the center. The shine sentiment is not going to lay flat on the panel. The top of the letters will catch some of that embossed area at the bottom of the crystal formation. Because the adhesive is going on the back of the full letter, they will be nice and stable on the card. And this card is wrapped up with some pretty clear crystal embellishments. Well, they're not pretty clear, they are clear, and they're pretty. And just look at all that sparkle. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making this card with Altenew shining crystals. Such a fabulous and unique design. Be sure to check out the full release. As one might expect, it's gorgeous. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, I appreciate your visit.